Hello, everybody. This is Professor Dom again. Just to kind of give you a bit of a recap, I was offline for a week. I'm sorry about that. It was the wonderful Rutgers IT system. But in any event, I've just gotten through all of your papers for paper one, and I want to kind of generally review it um, because it sets the stage for paper two and then paper three. Paper one again was asking you to identify integrity, competence, courage in the context of a professional walk within accounting, right? In general. And paper one asks you to delve into your own personal ethical framework, core values that kind of help you decide day to day which fork in the road or which way am I going to go. And paper one is about you understanding who you are, your weaknesses, and your strengths, right? Paper two then migrates into your work environment where you kind of flip it around and now you start analyzing, okay, other people you work with, your superiors, your subordinates, your peers, and kind of trying to figure out what ethical framework and core values they operate in or under to see, if things are aligning okay, and if not, how do I make them align? How do I build bridges? That's paper two. Paper three goes into, again, introspective look at your day-to-day work and say, okay, how can I build ethics into what I am doing, whether you're a director, a manager, a supervisor, or a rank and file accountant. We can all improve our work ethically in many ways. So that's the lay of the land regarding the papers, and those are the bulk of the points. I do want to say that overall, as I've gone through every single paper, I've read every one, many of you struggle with either, going back to the rubric and making sure you covered all the points, or you're just not digging deep enough. The rubric did ask you to identify your ethical framework and core values. I was kind of surprised that roughly maybe half of you had trouble doing that or didn't do it. You kind of alluded to it. You need to get into BOSS and really ask yourself, if I had to put myself into a bucket, which bucket would it be? Am I an egoist? Am I a cultural relativist? Am I a subjective relativist? Am I bound by the divine command theory? What's my ethical framework? And because we move from one framework to another during the day, you might select two or three and say, hey, Professor, I'm shifting from one to this one, all depending. At work, I might use one ethical framework, maybe the deontological one. And at home, I'm kind of like more of the subjective or maybe cultural relativist, so I don't cause trouble with my spouse or my significant other. Then you dig deeper by saying, what are the values that support my ethical frameworks? Many of you did pretty well identifying values like honesty, truthfulness, integrity, which is something that we've already touched upon defining. So, but again, many of you had trouble, so I've returned your papers and asked you to do a better job in that regard. So you're struggling there. The other area where I'm seeing some struggling is in the area of action plans. Some of you have aspirational plans. Oh, I aspire to be more honest, or I aspire to develop moral courage. That means nothing to me, okay? I'm looking at this as if I were developing your individual development plan during your year-end performance appraisal. I want an action plan that will improve your ethics. Now, a small number of you, I think one, kind of looks at ethics in a very skeptical way. You kind of look at life maybe, in an apathetic way. And it's just not one of you. There are a couple of you. So you really don't think it matters. Well, in this class, it does. Um, I understand that you might say you're not going to waste any time on ethics. You really don't believe in developing the ethical muscle. You'd rather just work on your technical proficiency. Listen, I can respect that. But in this class, you signed up for it, not me. You need to tell me if you were then going to pursue an ethical course of action, or to develop ethical muscle, or to work on a bias or weakness. What would it be? How would you do it? And this brings me to another deficiency I've seen in some of the papers. You're not addressing your personal biases and your weaknesses. And I know you have them. Some of you are writing the papers as a community. We, the community, struggle with this. We, the community, struggle with that. Well, I'm not inferring plagiarism, but some of you clearly have read some material somewhere and borrowed ideas, or you have your own, but you're shrouding or hiding your own biases and weaknesses. Now, I have to say, there are a few of you that were brilliant, and I don't want to give name shout outs, but I think you know who you are. Very candid. One of you admitted you're seeing a therapist. Not a bad thing. I've done it over the years as well. Someone to talk to, someone to kind of recenter yourself. Some of you have admitted to biases, okay? Cultural biases, religious biases, okay? Political biases. That's what we need to do. We all have them. We know we do. So the more you hide from that in this class or in these papers, the less you're getting out of it. And at the end of the day, you might say, Professor, it's not going to matter. And I will challenge you and I will say, yes, it does matter. You only play, or rather, yes, you only play as hard as you practice. We know this adage from our sports. If you don't go to practice, you're not going to play well. Okay? Very few athletes can miss practices and play exceptionally well. So I want to just stress that point. Okay? If you continue to fail to identify those weaknesses and biases, your action plans are of no consequence. Now, understand, I'm trying to get you to see a blind spot. Okay? We all have them. What we need to do here is make sure that we prepare ourselves well for paper 2 and paper 3. So in paper 1, I've given you each an opportunity to better refine and hone in your paper. Not just to get points, really, but to really take it seriously. Papers 2 and 3, I'm not going to do this. They will stand on their own. I'm going to go through them one time, and whatever you get, you get. I've got rubrics, grading matrices, if you will. And I'm going to use those, and whatever you get, you get. So do not come back to me and complain. You're seeing what I'm expecting now in paper 1, okay? Let me caution you, again, don't be vague in your paper to me. Don't use external sources. They're not really impressive. It just shows to me that, okay, you're maybe not reading our book and you're reading someone else's, or at least taking snippets from another text, which are not part of the class. And, you know, it's okay to do, but I want you to focus on the material that Dr. Smith and I have developed and hone in on those in your bibliographies, okay? So you're not going to get papers 2 and 3 returned back. So please understand that. I will be out of the country for 3 weeks beginning October 27th through November 14th. I should be able to plug in and not get kicked out of the system again. Hopefully not. And what I'll do is I'll release the modules ahead of time so you'll know what you have to do, okay? And if there are questions, remember to use Canvas, the Canvas messaging system, nothing else, because I don't always get those emails, all right? And I'm not checking all those emails. I've got, like you, I've got a slew of email accounts, that pay me money, right? I got to check on those first, like work emails. And not that these don't, but these are ancillary. The primary way to communicate is through Canvas. The backup is dsavini at EthiQuest. But let me remind you, or just advise you, while I'm away in Italy, I won't be able to access dsavini. It's not, they don't have a phone capable website. And I don't know why, but I use GoDaddy as my hosting service, and maybe that's part of the problem. But so listen, with that being said, I don't want to hold you too long. I know you got a midterm exam to work on. I want to, again, commend those of you that really dug deep and did a good job being introspective on the paper. Um, I know it's a difficult course, okay? But you've signed up for it. It's a challenging course. It's going to make you a better person, personally and professionally, okay? With that being said, have a good night.